Hi, okay, this is it. You have made it to the very last session of the course. It is a big consolidation, okay? I obviously want you to have a go as best you can from memory. Treating it as a little bit of a test will really tell you what areas you're super confident in and what areas you may want to do more practice in as well. So do that. If, however, there is something that you're like, want to get this, go and look it up. You know, it's not a real test, is it? So use this the way that it works best for you, really. Okay. So let's go for it. First question, pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so Barry is X years old. So they've been very kind. They've told us that this is going to be an algebra question. So we're going to go, Barry is X. Peter is 6 years older. So Peter is the same number of years plus 6. And Alice is 3 years younger than Barry. So X minus 3. The total of their ages is 36. So the total of their ages in algebra is 3x plus 3, and that is equal to 36. Now, if I want to know what x is, I get it on its own. So we're going to take 3 off. 3x is equal to 33. Divide through by the 3, and x is equal to 11. There we go. One question down. Here is the next one. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so we've got 3 angles marked, and then we've got angle DEA is twice the size of CDE. So DEA is twice the size of this one. So we're going to call this one X. We're going to call this one 2X. Okay, and we've got to work out the size of angle DEA. So that's the one that we are focused in on, okay? Now, it's a 5-sided shape. I have to know what the angles to a 5-sided shape add up to. We know there's more than one way to do this, but quite a nice way, and I'm just going to remind you of it, is to use the sequence. We know a triangle is 180. We know the quads are 360. And then we're into the 5-sided shape. And we're adding 180 each time. And that is one way of working out the total. So we're going to be using 540 as our total. We take away what we know. So we've got a 90-degree angle, 110 and 130. That's going to give us 210. So these two angles here total 210. 3x, that's the total of those two, is equal to 210. Divide through by the 3, and x is equal to 70. Now, as we already know, we're trying to find this one, which is 2 lots of the x. So to finish it off, it's 2 times 70, which is 140 degrees. Okay, so hopefully that went well. There is your next question. Simultaneous equations. We should be awesome at these by now. All right, off you go. Press play when you're ready. So I'm going to times this one by 3, which is going to give me 3x minus 6y equaling 3. And then we can go to work on them. So we're going to take them away, take, and just watch for that bit there. So I'm at -2, yeah? That's minus 2y. I'm at -2, and then I'm adding 6. So I'm going to end up at 4y equaling -5 minus a further 3 minus 8. Okay, we're going to divide through by the 4, and y is equal to -2. Now I need to choose one to pop this back in. I mean, there's negatives in both of them. I'm just going to go with the second one. It looks just a little easier. Now, we are going to be doing x minus 2 times y, which is minus 2. And the reason that I've done that is so that we don't lose any of those negatives and hopefully we don't make any mistakes. So I've got x minus, in the bracket, 2 times minus 2 is minus 4. And there you can see that double coming together. And that will obviously turn it into a positive. So we've got x plus 4 equals 1. Take off the 4 and x is equal to minus 3. So not the easiest, easy for that one, I think, to go wrong because there's just negatives at every single stage, isn't there? Okay, next one, hit pause, press play when you're ready. So we're being told it's an isosceles right-angled triangle. We're being told the area is 200 centimeters squared, and it's our job now to use that to help us find x. So area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. That's the formula, can't change that. So that's what's going to help me. The base and the height are my 4x's, okay, because it's a rotated right-angled triangle. So the right angle always points to the base and the height. Nice little trick that. So 4x times 4x divided by 2. So let's just concentrate on that for a moment. Doing the top is going to give me 16x to the power of 2. And then I can just divide that 16 by the 2 to cancel that and simplify it to 8x squared. Okay, now I know that my base times height divided by 2 is equal to the area, and they've told me the area is that value there. So that's telling me that my 8x squared must equal 200. All right, I'm going to divide through by my 8, which is going to give me x squared equaling 25, and then square root to give me x equals 5. Okay. Now, you don't have to simplify at this stage. You know, if you miss that, it's not the end of the world, because you can set it up as 16x squared over 2 equaling 200, and you'll get the same result, okay? The exact same thing will come out. So if you didn't see that and you carried on with it in that version, you'll know what I'm talking about, because hopefully you would have got all the way to that x equals 5. Okay, there is your next question. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. So we are having to match the letter with the equations, okay? So when I look at that, I'm not necessarily doing it in any particular order. I can see, just looking at it, that there's one quadratic. D is my kind of smiley face quadratic. So I'm going to look down the list and find that power 2, and I'm going to pop the D straight there. So you do where your confidence is, you know, and then you're one down. So if you do end up with I'm going to have to guess a little bit, you know, you've already put in the ones you're confident on. Okay. Now, the next things that I'm looking at are my cubics. I know that a cubic that starts with an up direction is positive, and I know a cubic that starts forcing you on a downward movement is negative. So now I'm going to look for my positive and my negatives. My negative x cubed is right at the top, so that's my C, which means my other is B. And then that just leaves A as my reciprocal graph going in there. All right, so hopefully that went well. Use the graph to solve the simultaneous equations. Press play when you're ready. Okay, so these are the types of questions we can get right at the very end of the paper if you're on foundation. And they just look so complicated, but hopefully you now know that it is literally nothing more than finding the coordinate of the crossing point. Okay, so the coordinate is -1, 3, which means x equals -1 and y equals 3. And it really is no more work than that. It feels like there should be loads of work, but they've told you use the graphs. So there is no point in going through that whole algebraic method because there won't be any marks for it. Okay. All right. Next question. Press play when you're ready. Okay, I want to make Q the subject. So just zooms out. I think I hit something by accident. Apologies for that. All right, so we are going to move the 11. So P minus 11. The P was already there, so it stays in the front position. And then to get Q on its own, I literally just bring that through and divide. And I must remember to divide everything that's there. So Q is equal to P minus 11 all over 8. Okay. Question 8. Press play when you're ready. Okay, so I know these types of questions can be sometimes tricky to pull together because there's a lot of information going on. One of the things that the examiner is trying to help you with is the labeling that they give here, okay? They are pretty much telling you that the fabric case information is going here and the wooden case is going here, all right? Because sometimes we try and combine the two and it doesn't work when we do that. So there are 5 blue pens and 4 red pens in the fabric pencil case. So that's my first part. So I'm going to be putting 5 out of 9 for the blue and 4 out of 9 for the red. And then I'm looking at the wooden pencil case where I've got 3 out of 5 and 2 out of 5. And of course, that then just repeats itself down here. Okay. So that's the tree diagram completed. It then says, work out the probability that the pens Sally takes are both blue. Okay, so my root will be blue, blue, which gives me 5/9 and 3/5. We multiply across, giving me a final answer of 15 over 45. All right, so well done if that went okay for you. Next question. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so we've been told the numbers are put into the Venn diagram. The number 9 is in set A, but not set B. The number 10 is in both, and we have to complete the Venn diagram. So a big question for a tiny little bit of work. The 9 is in A, but not B, so it must go here. And the 10 is in both, so it must go here. And that is all they wanted us to do. Then a student chooses at random a number in the completed diagram. Write down the probability that this is not in set B. Not in set B means everything but there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of a total 11. All right. So hopefully that went well. Oh, we got another simultaneous equation. Perfect. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so I'm going to be timesing the bottom one by 5 to give me 5x minus 15y equaling 65. So I'm just going to rewrite those. And 5x minus 15y equals 65. Now show those minuses, they can really help. You can see that 2 negatives there are going to make a positive. So when I do y and add a further 15 to them, I end up with 16y. Now 17 take 65 is minus 48. When I divide through by the 16, y is equal to minus 3, okay? Now I'm going to use the top one, 5x plus y equals 17, just because it's positive. So I've got 5x plus my y, which is minus 3. And obviously I've got that plus and minus thing happening. We know that's going to make a negative. So I've got 5x minus 3 equaling 17. Add the 3, and I've got 5x equaling 20. Divide through by the 5, and you've got x is equal to 4. Okay. All right, hopefully that went well. Here is your next question. Think about what they're telling you. How can I use my knowledge? Go for it and press play when you're ready. So the diagram shows a triangle. Is this an isosceles triangle? And you need to explain your answer. So you've really got to justify whether you're going to say yes or whether you're going to say no. Now, if it's isosceles, we should have two edges the same. So we need to set this up. I'm going to set these two up to be the same. There's no reason other than the diagram making it look like it might be those two for me to do that first, all right? But if they're equal, it means that 4x plus 24 is equal to 9x minus 6. Now, I want to obviously get x on its own. So I'm going to be taking off the 4x, leaving me 24 equaling 5x minus 6. Add the 6 on here, and you've got 30 that side, 5x that side. Divide through by the 5, and your x is equal to 6. Okay, now we've already decided that those two are going to equal each other. So when I put my 4 times 6 plus 24 in, I get 48, and I should be getting 48 on the opposite side. We could do it just to make absolutely sure, and we do indeed get 48. Now, as long as this doesn't equal 48, it's isosceles. I have to substitute into that to be able to say, yes, it is, or no, it isn't. So 8 times 6 is equal to 48. And now I can say, no, it's not. It's actually an equilateral. Now, you've got to explain your answer. All that working out is the evidence for your explanation, okay? So you can say, no, all sides equal 48. Or no, all sides are equal, so it's equilateral. The sentence that you put together will probably be different from somebody else's, okay? But just make it clear that you've understood the maths that you've done, all right? Now, it's quite a tricky one, a lot to do. There's no shortcuts, is there really? All right, there's question 12. I think, don't want to put you off before you started, but I think this one's quite tough, all right? So just give it your best shot and then hit play when you're ready. All right, so we've got Luke and Jake having the same number of sweets, okay? That's our starting piece of information. And if I was to show this mathematically, I would say you've got Luke and Jake having a number of sweets that are equal. But then Luke gives 12 to Jake. So what would that look like algebraically? It would mean that Luke has now got n minus 12. He's got 12 less from the original number. And Jake has got 12 more. It then says that Jake has 3 times as many sweets. So that means that this here is 3 times bigger. If I want to be able to introduce my equals back into this, then I need to multiply this one by 3 to readdress the balance. So I'm going to times this side by 3. So that's all of that by the 3 to give me 3n minus 36. That is equal to that. And I think that's really quite a hard thing to get your head around, all right? So don't worry if this hasn't gone perfectly. If we don't see this type of thing, if we're not exposed to it, then how are we going to get better? If you got that far, amazing. Let's keep our fingers crossed that everything else went perfectly well. To be honest, at this point, it's back to what we know. I want to know what n equals. I'm going to get it on its own. So we're going to take off the n to give us 2n minus 36 equaling 12. We are then going to add the 36, and that will give us 2n equals 48. Go all the way to n if you want. You could almost stop at 48 because 48 is the answer, all right? We want to know the total number of sweets that Luke and Jake have. Well, they had n and n. They had two n's. So they both had 24 each at the start. And then they obviously started to share them in a different way. So the final answer is 48. Okay. Like I say, I do think that's tricky. Any workings out there that you can link to in your workings out, be proud of, because these take time and practice. They really do. Okay, so on to the next question. There we go. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Right, this is the type of question that we see at the end of a foundation paper. So we think they're going to be harder than they are. Absolutely not. We are literally looking, it says use the graph, so the answer's got to be on the graph. Where it crosses that x-axis is our solutions. So x is equal to 0.5 and x is equal to 2. And that really is it. All right, next question. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so we're going to make t the subject. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of that square root. It's going to land as squared. Okay, now we are going to move the b next. It's going to land as a times. So you've got a squared there first, and then the b lands. It really doesn't matter if you have written it that way round, so don't worry about that. That is equal to 5t, and then we'll divide through by the 5. So t is equal to 8 squared b all over 5. Okay. All right. There is your next question. Hit pause and press play when you're ready. Okay, so again, this is really wordy, which can be very off-putting. However, it is actually quite straightforward. So you've got a formula that you've been given, so you're going to use that to help you solve the problem. You're being told that W is standing for weeks and that N is standing for the number of workers. Now here, Greg's company is going to take 80 weeks to build the house and Poppy's is 60. And we're having to work out how many more workers Poppy's company is going to need to actually do what she says she's going to do. So really, we are not doing anything other than substituting this information in. This is 80 weeks. So in the W section, we are going to be putting 80. Okay. 960 divided by something is 80. Now, if we want to know what n is, we need to get it on its own. So this is already feeling a little uncomfortable. I can't move the 960 because the divide is attached to the n. So it is divide by n that's going to have to move. It will land as times by n, won't it? Which means I can now pick up the times by 8 and it will land as, 80. It will land as the divide by 80. What's actually happening is they're switching places, which is why I tried to do it at the same time so you could kind of see the switch happening. So I'm going to do 960 divided by 80, and that will tell me the number of workers is 12. Then I'm going to do the same thing, 960 divided by 60, and that is going to tell me that the number of workers is 16. How many more workers each week is the question. So 16 take away 12, and our answer is 4. Poppy uses 4 more workers. All right. Okay, there is your next question. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so the diagram shows right angled triangle, the angles are in degrees, work out the smallest. Okay, so we know that angles in a triangle add up to 180. So we've got 4x plus 2x, which is 6x. We've got 90 plus the 36, which is 126. So that's all 3 angles added together, equaling 180. We're then going to take off the 126 to get 6x equals 54. Divide through by the 6, and x is equal to 9. But they don't want x, they want... Keeps doing, oh my goodness me, it's jumping around all over the place. Keeps doing that, doesn't it? Okay, work out the size of the smallest angle is actually our job. So 4 times x will become 4 times 9, which is 36. It's really sensible to double check in case the diagram is misleading. So 2 times 9 is 18. And then if you to add on the 36, you can already see it's going to be bigger. Just the very fact that 36 was being added to something and this was only 36 may have been enough to make you think, oh, I won't do it. But it's important for me to note, you know, sometimes they can mislead and you really want to be sure. All right. So the answer is 36 degrees. Okay. All right. So our next question is that. Hit pause and press play when you are ready. Okay, so we need to write down the numbers that are in set A, U, so union, united, B. So that is all of A and B. And we have to write the numbers down. So we're literally listing these numbers. So we've got 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 29, and 30. They don't have to be in numerical order, but I think it's quite nice to do that. And then we had to list A and B. Okay, so that's the middle section, 21, 25, 27. And then one of the numbers in the diagram is chosen at random. Find the probability that the number is in set A dash, which means not A. It means everywhere else, but not A. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are not in A. So it's going to be 5 out of 11. Okay. Next question. Press play when you're ready. Okay, so this is the type of question that we could see right at the end of a foundation paper. If you are doing the grade 5 to go on and work at a higher level, then what we are about to see is essential skills, okay? We really have to have this. This is tricky, very tricky to do without our formula. Our formula that we learned in the course was M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That is my rise over run, which is how I find gradient, okay? Keyword, there it is. I'm going to label up my coordinates, x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I'm literally just substituting in. Y2 is 4 and y1 is 6. I've got 10 and then minus 4, which is going to give me minus 2 over 6, which cancels to minus a third. So the gradient of that line is minus a third. They haven't asked for any more than that. That is me done. All right. Okay. There is your next question. Hit pause, press play when you are ready. Okay, so we have got an area given to us. The area of the rectangle is 63. We've got to show that y is equal to 3. So they have actually told us what y equals. So we need to work out what x is to help prove, to show that the y is 3. Okay, so we know that opposite sides of rectangles are equal. So I'm going to use that fact to get us going. So 6x minus 3 is equal to 2x plus 13. Take off the 2x and you've got 4x minus 3 equals 13. Now I've got 4x equals 16. Divide through by the 4 and our x is equal to 4. Okay. Now we can work out what the edge of this rectangle is because we now know that x is 4. So 6 times 4 and then take off the 3 is going to give you 21. The area of the rectangle, okay, is base times height. We know that one of the edges is 21. All right. We times y to the 21, we know it's going to give us 63. Right, so I'm going to divide through by my 21 and y equals 3, and that proves or shows that y is 3. It's got to be 3 because 21 times 3 is 63. Okay, so hopefully that has gone reasonably well for you. We have a recognizing graphs. Now this one isn't asking us to recognize all 6, so take a good look at the graphs and the equations you've been given and give this a really good shot. Press play when you're ready. Okay, so I'm going with what I know confidently, okay? I know that this is a quadratic, it's x squared, it cannot fit either of these two, so I absolutely know E is not going to be an answer that I give. And that's a good way of narrowing things down, isn't it? There's no way that C is. I might be looking at these two and thinking, well, one of them could be linked here, and this is obviously my cubic. Now I can see that the cubic's positive. So if I look at this one and start here, I'm going down, that's negative. Here, that's up and positive, and that's really all I need to see. So I know that this is linking with F. So now I've got to decide which one the D and the A is, okay? It might be I have to do a 50-50 guess, but hopefully not. Now, this one takes the shape of our reciprocal. This takes the shape of an exponential graph. Exponential graphs get faster really, 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 really quickly. And when you have a power x, that is going to get bigger very, very quickly because obviously your power. Sorry, guys, I put my F in the wrong place. I've just realized. So let me sort that out. That F should be there. So I'm just going to talk you through this. 2 to the power of x. Well, 2 to the 1 is 2. 2 to the 2 is 4. 2 to the 3 is 8. And these numbers are just doubling. 8, 16, 32, 64. It's getting big really, really quickly. So D would be the correct graph for that one. All right, it is exponential. Okay, next question. There you go. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, now this is a great example of what the examiner can do to try and make things as hard as they possibly can. You have no diagram. It's all words. And when it's all words, it is extra tricky. So put that diagram in place. It says the size of the largest angle in a quadrilateral. So all I need to do is just draw myself some random four-sided shape. It genuinely matters not what it looks like. As long as you've got 4 angles that you can start filling with the information. So the size of the largest angle in a quadrilateral is 4 times the size of the smallest. So I'm going to say the smallest is here, and I'm going to label it X. I'm going to say the biggest is here, and I'm going to label it 4x. That's 4 times bigger than the smaller. Okay, there is a right angle. Okay, that's handy. Pop that on. And then the fourth angle is 45 degrees bigger than the smallest. Well, we know the smallest is X, and this is 45 degrees bigger, so I'm going to add 45 to it. And once I've produced that, I'm a little bit more in a comfort zone. I can see clearly what's going on. I've got to work out in degrees the size of each angle. So there's a lot to do here, and I can't do it until I know what the X is. The X is going to be found through the fact that angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. So I'm going to add up all my X's. I've got 4, 5, 6 X's. And my numbers, 90 plus 45 are 135. That's the total of all the angles added together. They equal 360. So take off the 135 that we know, gives us 6x equaling 225. Divide through by 6, and x is equal to 37.5. And now all I need to do is substitute into each of my equations. So this angle here, I'm going to change my color, must be 37.5 because it is x. This one here is 37.5 plus 45. Okay, that is going to be 82. I don't know why I put a 4 there. I say one thing and do another, don't I? Okay, let's just correct that so we don't leave you confused. It's because I was writing a 4 next and my brain was ahead of me. So 82.5. This one is going to be 4 times 37.5. I'll write it down properly this time, which is 150. And of course, this is 90. So my answers are all there in my workings out. You'll have a dotted line and you will literally just write them all down. Okay, put your degree sign on, and those are your answers. Okay, so our next question is a little rearrangement. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, this is quite a nice simple one, so nothing hopefully too tricky here. To get p on its own, I'm going to need to move this divide by 3. So I've got 3 times m equaling q plus p, and then I'm picking up that q, and it's going to land as minus q. 3m is already there. So p is equal to 3m minus q. Okay. Next question, another gradient question. All right, read through everything and hit play when you're ready. Okay, so I'm going to do my giant triangle. 40 is there. So my height, my rise is 200. My run is 40. 20 divided by 40 is 5. So the gradient is 5. Nice simple number for us. It says write down an interpretation of the gradient. Okay, so we can go back to what we were doing here, but we can add on the units just to try and help us make sense of it. So 200 kilometers over 40 liters. When you divide through by that 40, you got 5 kilometers over 1 liter. So an interpretation would be that you can travel 5 kilometers on 1 liter. All right. Now, equally, it's not asking for it in its sort of simplest explanation. So you could have just said you can travel 200 kilometers on 40 liters. That is an interpretation of that gradient, and you should be able to get marks on that. However, because our gradient was given as 5, because that's an accurate numerical value for our gradient, it would make a lot more sense to talk about the 5 here. All right. Okay. Question 24. Have a little read. Press play when you're ready. Okay, again, a question. I mean, all of these are right near the end, aren't they? Because it's grade 5. So they're going to be on foundation higher. We're being asked about whether they're parallel. So we need to get them in the same form so that we can actually make that comparison. So I already have y equals 3x plus 4, where y is on its own. So I'm going to be working on getting this one on its own. I want the y completely on its own. So I'm going to hop the 3x and the minus 4, and that will give me 2y equals minus 3x plus 4. Okay, now I'm going to divide through by the 2. And I can already see, to be honest, before I even divided through by the 2, I could answer the question, because this has come out negative, which does not match the positive gradient that we have here. I can divide all the way through and get a gradient of minus 3 over 2. Remember that the minus 3 marrying with the 2 is my gradient, and the minus, positive in this case, 4 marrying with the 2 is my y-intercept. Now, there's nothing to do with the y-intercept, so I'm homing in just on the gradient, and you can say, no, they are not parallel because you have a gradient of 3, which does not equal a gradient of minus 3 over 2. Okay, all right, we're getting there. Question 25. Hit pause and press play when you're ready. Okay, so the spinner can land on either blue or red. The probability that the spinner will land on blue is 0.5, and it's spun twice. This is a very straightforward question because the probability isn't changing. If it's going to be 0.4 to land on blue, it's going to be regardless of how many times it's spun, and 0.6 is going on for our red because they need to add to 1, don't they? Work out the probability the spinner lands on 2 different colors. So if the first spin gave me blue, the second spin would need to give me red, and that is 2 different colors. I've got a 0.4, which I need to multiply by 0.6, and that is giving me 0.24. But it's not the only route, because at the very beginning, I might not have spun a blue, I might have spun a red. Then if I get a blue, I've got 2 different colors. Now the maths is coming out the same, just the other way around. And then you add. So if you've got more than one result, more than one outcome, you add them. So 0.24 plus 0.24 is 0.48 as a final answer. Okay. All right. Question 26. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. So we're being told the perimeter of a square, which we don't even have. So I personally, right away, would go, okay, let me just see this square, is the same as the perimeter of the triangle. And I've got to work out the edge of the square. So the first thing I'm going to need is the perimeter of the triangle. Remember, perimeter is add all the edges. So I have got 4x plus 4x plus 8 and 5x minus 2. So I've got a total of 10x and a total of 10 going on there. Have I done that right? Yeah. 10x plus 10. Now, I want just one edge. I know that the entire perimeter of this square is equal to 10x plus 10. Now I'm going to divide through by 4 because I just want one of the edges. Okay. Now 10 divided by 4 is 2.5. And of course, you've got your 2.5 going on the end there as well. Okay. Next question. Oops. There you go. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so we've done a couple of these. They alluded to the algebra that was going to be needed. This one doesn't, okay? Kelly is 9 years older than James. Who am I giving the first letter to? And it will be James. James is a number I don't know. Kelly is 9 years older than James. So she is X, James's age, plus 9. And then Millie is twice as old as Kelly, which means doubling Kelly's. So 2x plus 18. Okay. The sum of all three is 55. So together, which is, oops, not 5, 4x plus 27. Together, that gives me 55. Then you take off the 27. And you've got 4x equals 28. Divide through by the 4, and you've got your x is equal to 7. Now, we're being asked to find the ratio of Jamie's age to Kelly's to Millie. So we've got Jamie to Kelly to Millie. Now, we know Jamie is x, which is 7. Kelly is x plus 9. So 7 plus 9, which is 16. And then Millie is 2 times 7 plus 18. So we've got 14 plus 18, which is 32. And that is the answer for that one. All right. Question 28. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so we've got the even numbers less than 30, that all those numbers, all of the even numbers need to go into it. So I would literally list them all out, okay? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And it's less than 30, so we don't include 30, okay? It then says that the multiples of 4 are in A and the multiples of 6 are in B. So we've got 4, 8, 12 is a multiple of 4 and 6. So we'll go in here. Continuing with my 4 times table, I've got my 16. I've got my 20. 24 is in both. And then 28 is the last one. And you can see what I've got left. So I'm now going to do B, the 6 times table. So 6 needs to go in there. 12 already is. 18 needs to go in there. And then 24 already is. So the only thing I've got left to do now is put all the odd ones that don't fit into A and B. So we've got a 2, a 10, a 14, and a 22, all going on the outside. Okay. Oh, and the 26. Let's not forget the 26. There we go. So that's the completed Venn diagram. Then what's the probability that a number chosen is in set A and B? Well, there's only 2. So 2 out of the total that are there, which is 14, is the first part of that question. And then A united with B, but not that. All right, we've got that little not. So not this bit, but the rest of it, which basically means not any of that. Okay, so that is going to give us the 5 numbers in the rectangle out of 14 as our answer there. All right. Okay, our next question. Hit pause, press play when you're ready. Okay, so the equation of the line is what we've got to write. We know it has a gradient 2 and it passes through a particular point. So it makes sense to actually use this graph to help me. If it's got a gradient of 2, then it must run along 1 and rise 2. Run along 1, rise 2. So I'm going to create that from this point here. So there is my rise of 2, and that would have been my run of 1. And you can see I'm creating that same looking picture. And what that does is it shows me, and I'm going to just draw it on a bit rough, but it will go on, just shows me where the line is. It rather handily shows me where it crosses as well. So I know the equation of a line is y equals something x something. Just from the question itself, I could have got this far, because it told me the gradient was 2. If I didn't have a Scooby-Doo what to do next, as long as I finish it off with any old random number so it looks like I knew what I was doing, I would get one of the marks. But we don't need to do that because we do know what we're doing. We can see it crosses at 1. So our y-intercept is +1. Y equals 2x plus 1 is the answer to that question. Okay. Here is our next one, which I think is a bit of a toughie. So hit pause and then have a really good go at this and press play when you are ready, okay? Okay, so we've got a bit of inverse proportion going on, but it's not the only thing that we need to help us solve this question. We know that if 8 machines in the factory could make all the panels in 3 days, that 4 machines are going to take twice as long, aren't they? Okay, so let's just kind of make a note of that. We've got our machines and we've got the number of days. And we know that 8 machines will make them in 3 days. That's a fact that they gave us, okay? They start then talking about 4 machines. Well, if I've halved the machines, they are going to take twice the time. It would take them 6 days to make all the panels. So I'm wrapping my head around that piece of information to start off with, okay? So it says for 2 days, only 4 machines are in use, da-da-da-da-da, okay? So you could be thinking about this in percentages, okay? So you could be thinking that in day 1, if only 4 machines were being used, then only 50% was made that day. So I've still got 50% that I need to make up. Day 2, again, because there were only 4 machines, only 50% was actually made. From day 3, all 8 machines are working again, which means 100% has been made. Across day 1 and day 2, you can say that 100% were made, but 100% was kind of not made, lost whatever on production. So I've still got another 100% to account for, which I can do in day 4, because on day 4, all the machines are used and they make another 100%. So I've got a total there now being completed. So it's taking 4 days. I could have thought about this also in fractions, which I'm going to demonstrate because I do think that these questions are tricky. So I think the more ideas you get given so that you can think, oh, that made sense. I quite like that. So on day 1, okay, now what's the best way for me to do the fractions? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, if we've got all the machines, okay, working, it's going to take 3 days. So on day 1, 1/3 would have been made. On day 2, they would have made another third, which would have given us a total of 2/3 completed. And on day 3, they would have made another third, which would have been a whole, everything, the whole lot is made. Now, if I've only got half the machines, they're not going to make a third. They're going to make half of that. They're going to make a sixth. On day 2, they've only made a sixth. In total, they've made a third. On day 3, a third is made because all the machines are working. And on day 4, a third. And the 3 thirds will equal that 1 whole. These questions are hard, all right? Appreciating the proportion being inverse at the start helps us work out how to head into this. Those are 2 different ways. Equally, you could have just made up a number. Now, it needed to be a number that would work well with what you've been given. So something like 30 or 60, so that they are multiples of what you've been given those 3 days. And then you can work out using total amounts being made. And it will work that way. So it's really trying to find something that works for the way that your brain processes. So a tough one. If you got that right and you did it in a completely different way, it doesn't matter. 4 days is the answer. So as long as your workings out, back up where that 4-day answer came from, you're good to go. If it was a guess, then if you're lucky, they'll give you 1 mark. Sometimes they don't even do that without the backup of some method. All right. So that was that question. And like I say, I think quite a hard one. There's the next one. So hit pause and press play when you are ready. All right, so a nice little tree diagram for us. We are being given more information, okay? So the football team is going to play a midweek match and a weekend match. Now, we saw this earlier in another question. They do try and help us with the labeling here. I've got my midweek being the first sets of probability and my weekends being the second. The probability that the team will win midweek is 0.35. They've put that on ready for us. So almost before I read anything else, I could put in my 0.65, so that adds to 1. It says if they win midweek, the probability that they win at the weekend is 0.7. So if they win, that's traveling this way with a win, then the win at the weekend is 0.7. So that 0.7 lives here. If they do not win, which is me traveling this way, if they don't win, the probability they win at the weekend is 0.4. So I've got 0.4 living here. So this is a tricky one to get everything in the right place. Now I'm going to make them add to 1 to finish them off, and then I'm good to go on the next section. The probability that the team will win exactly 1 of the 2 matches means they could win here and lose here, or they could lose and then win. So those are my 2 pathways that could work out. So 0.35 times 0.3, which is equal to 0.105. Or we've got a 0.65 with a 0.4, okay, which gives us 0.26. To get my final answer, I add those 2 outcomes. So 0.105 plus 0.26 is going to give me 0.365. So a really tough question there. And hopefully it didn't catch you out, but it would be really easy for it to, okay, really easy. All right, we've got 1 question left. So I thought we'd finish off how we started with a simultaneous equation. Hit pause and press play when you are ready. Okay, so these are going to need to be multiplied. And we will end up with 6x plus 12y equaling 126, and 6x minus 10y equaling minus 72. Get those minuses in so we can see what's going on. Both those are turning to adds. So we've got 12 plus 10, which is 22y, and 126 plus 72, which is 198. Divide through by the 22, and you've got your y equaling 9. Then you've got to pick on one. I'm going to choose 2x plus 4y, which is equal to 42. And my y is 9, so 4 9s are 36. I don't need to worry about any negatives because there aren't any, so I can go straight in and then start to get x on its own. 42 take 36 is 6. Divide through by the 2, and you've got x is equal to 3. Okay, so that was the last question. You are done. So really, really well done. It was a big course, a lot of learning at the top end of that foundation. And these are all really critical knowledge moving forward, going in and studying at a higher level. Okay, so congratulations. Well done. All right. Think about how far you've come since you started at the very, very beginning of the course. We aren't 100% being perfect at everything. Obviously, we would love that. But we do also need to be realistic. Not even the examiner is expecting 100%. So I think really the reflection that you want to be doing is thinking about your confidence and your knowledge. You know, how much more do you actually know now? How confident are you when you see these types of questions? And that's the true measure of whether or not you are making good progress. So well done. I hope you've enjoyed learning with Target Maths. And hopefully we will continue to work with you in the future should you choose to continue your studies.